right, guys, what's going on? So it's been what, almost a month?
Yeah, about a month.
About a month since we finished this project, and I'll tell you, the weather has not been to our advantage here. We had a couple of days, crazy rain, got soaked.
Lots of wind.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the wind out here was kind of like at a next level. We're at the tail end of the Lake Wales Ridge, and just something about this area, it's like a wind tunnel. So the combination of the rain, the cold air, doing it in the middle of December, made it really tough to finish this video. I've been trying to get back here ever since, and let Matt tell you guys a little bit about the size of the site.
Yeah, so this site is I think 25 acre property. It was originally the kind of a scrub, what do you call it, pine wood flatlands, mostly saw palmettos, pine trees, really poor fertility in the soil. But one of the nice things about this property is it's a little bit higher than the rest of the area, so they don't get any flooding. The part that we designed, you'll see it when we get back there, over there, is about 3 acres, 2.5 acres. Kind of an interesting eyeball shaped, kind of a funny flowy design, that they wanted something like that, kind of encompassing a little cottage house and a workspace, and got a whole bunch of different cool stuff in there. We'll show you that in a little bit.
And talking about reforesting, since we've left and came back, how many pine trees went in the ground here?
2,000.
2,000 pine trees. So some I want to point out real quick. When we were working on this project, I posted a couple of photos on Facebook, a couple on Instagram, and I had a couple of those comments in there like, well, that doesn't seem like a good spot for a food forest. Like, you guys are disturbing a native ecosystem. And let me just tell you, like, we are surrounded by ecocide at like a whole nother level. The monocultures of citrus, the tomato groves getting sprayed in Roundup, the clear cutting that's going on in this area. Yes, this is a sensitive area. There's Florida panthers here. There might be bears. There's definitely deer. There's hogs. But this property actually had a problem with the pine beetle. So a lot of these trees were dead before, the client got here. He removed the dead trees. He didn't take out a lot of live trees to do the actual site. So
yeah, if you look back that direction, you see all the burned trees. That was what brought in the beetles in the first place. They had a fire that came through the property, burned out a lot of the trees, and then when that stress happened, that's what brought in that pest, the beetle, to come in. And that was kind of the instigation of all that problem.
Yeah, so our awesome clients, Bill and Judy, actually live in kind of like the downtown Fort Myers area, and they wanted a place to go, get out of the city, to have this, kind of getaway botanical garden, food forest. They actually fell in love with our YouTube videos. So this is kind of like a weekend getaway. Maybe they'll build a house here someday. Definitely have something that's producing food, something to kind of come out and fiddle with. I mean, everybody wants a hobby of owning a food forest. These clients, Bill and Judy, are absolutely awesome. They contacted me about the beginning of summer. We were doing a project in Fort Myers. We drove out here, we did some consulting work. Now we're actually putting this design onto the ground. You can see we're just starting to get some main lines in. Mr. Reese is out there with his straw hat on. He's drawing all his lines, getting everything marked out. Everything's to scale here. It actually made scale a little bit tough with buildings here in the center. We made do. We put up a large ladder, put up a large pole, and we've been pulling all of our measurements off of that. Here we are installing the system, and you can kind of see just barely over that way is the trencher. We're running a main line from that well over here on the east side of the property all the way up to the gate. We're going to have a native buffer going in along the road. So got to get some water up there for those plants. Got to get some hose bibs put in. This is going to be our access road. And, right now I've got a trailer full of plants. We bought 4,000 pounds of biochar with us. We've got the golf cart. We've got the tractor. We've got most of the supplies we're going to need for this install. And I've got all kinds of exciting deliveries coming for you guys all week. Putting in a lot of live oaks here. Multi-species fruit trees. I think we've probably got about 100 different fruit trees going in. And then thousands of support plants. So it's going to be a really exciting one. I think we're using about 800 yards of mulch here, 50 to 100 yards of compost. Like I said, 4,000 pounds of biochar. Pretty exciting. And as you can see, this has gone from a pine palmetto field to soon to be a productive food system. All right, Mr. Ian's running a main line here to that front gate, and looks like we've got a little challenge going on here. Possibly a piece of a stick, a root, palmetto got lodged in there. Hey, dude.
Hey, what's growing on?
Dude, what are you doing?
Oh, I got some wood stuff.
Wait, we haven't even been here an hour. Are you breaking stuff?
Not yet.
All right. Keep up the good work, Ian. Whoa, I don't think we've seen you before.
Hi, Pete.
Oh, you a new guy?
I am a new guy.
What's your name, dude?
Tristan.
Tristan. All right, bro. What are you doing?
I'm digging irrigation.
You cleaning out those dishes, dude?
I am.
All right, keep up the good work. And what's really important here is, you know, they didn't prep the site 2 months ago. They prepped the site a couple of days before we got here, so we don't have any weed penetration. The site's ready to go. Luckily, we just got some rain last night, and I was actually really surprised with the color of the soil profile. You know, being in this really piney, scrubby type of habitat, you know, it's not very common to see gray soil, dark soil. I was kind of expecting like that pure sugar sand. This stuff's fairly alive. It actually looks fairly decent. We're going to be bringing in lots of organic compost, organic fertilizer, biochar, so we're going to be beefing up that life a little bit too. Over here in the northwest corner of the property, we have all the dead pines. Those are the logs from those trees that got taken down. We might use those to line some paths. We might use them around the outer edge of the food forest. That's kind of undecided. I really love that dead pine right there. They call that a snag. Certain species of birds will only land in dead trees. Pretty cool. So, big site, lots of dirt, lots of room to plant.
So this is the site plan for the main food forest. As you can see, here's the entry here. It comes straight in. There's a kind of a cottage, which is where we're standing right now, and there's a garage here. And then there's kind of an exit path that leads into this big circle. And then there's a kind of two paths that lead out the back gate. Like we said before, the client really wanted that tropical feel, so we put a lot of flowering. This is kind of like a botanical garden piece up here at the front with large flowering trees like Royal Poinciana, jacaranda, the golden rain tree, tamarind, some royal palms in there. We've got African tulip trees, silk floss trees. As you come in, we've got more tropical fruit trees sections. This is the area that we talked about earlier with the overhead irrigation for frost protection or cold protection. And then out here we have these radiating different beds with different types of fruit trees like mulberries, avocados, figs, jaboticabas, longanids, lychees, persimmons, loquats. And the idea here was to have the tropical stuff at the south, and as you come north it becomes more and more cold hardy. So we've got the avocados up here, the persimmons, the loquats are up here on the north side. And then as you get outside of this central piece, we've got these bands of more cold hardy fruit species. The way the program comes out, it doesn't show all the support species that are in the design, just the way we're scaled out here. But basically, we've had an alternating peach plum with bananas, and then olive pomegranate with bananas, and it just alternates like that. On the outside, we've got these two protective outer beds with eventually an overstory of live oak, and then we've got these citrus trees, and we've got a whole bunch of other understory plants in there that you can't see in the drawing just because of the scale of the drawing. But the idea being that we're protecting ourselves from that north cold wind that comes through periodically.
Nice. Talk to us on this buffer over here, dude.
Yeah, so the native buffer, there's a couple different aspects to this. The main thing is kind of a beautification up at the front and to eliminate some of the views from the road. Additionally, we have, as you can see, this is the main road. Across the street, which is to the south, is a gigantic cattle pasture. So this is also a wind buffering piece as well, because we do get pretty strong winds out of the south. Actually, when we were installing this section, we were getting winds out of the south that must have been 25, 30 knots at times. So we've had all the big trees have been staked up that way, but I mean, even at that time, it was a clear proof that we needed that kind of protection. And then behind it, where you see all these green, this is existing pines. They've actually planted in 2,000 more pines, and they're going to be doing, I think, 2,000 per year for the next 2 or 3 years, they said. So they're going to be totally reforesting this entire place in mostly slash pine and longleaf. So eventually you will not be able to see or know that that system's back there, and that's the idea. They want a private, secluded place with some food security, somewhere that they can take their family, somewhere they can feel safe. And hopefully we'll see. We'll come back and see what it looks like in a couple of years. I think we've achieved it.
All right, what's up, guys? So day 4 of this food forest project down in LaBelle, and it's a tidbit nippy this morning. It was 38 with frost out on the main road yesterday, 52 when we got here today. One of the neighbors actually told us he's only seen frost in this area about 3 times in 15 years. So, you know, we're pretty far south, but we are a bit inland. So, you know, in this design, we have a tropical zone. And in that tropical zone, we're actually gonna have some overhead irrigation for protection in the wintertime. So the client can come out here, kick on the water, get a little protection on those mangoes and some of those more tropical trees that, you know, aren't as temperate, that aren't gonna be okay in the wintertime here. So in these last couple of days, we've put in lots of irrigation. We've got 10 live oaks in the ground. These are all 30-gallon trees. They're probably standing about 15 foot tall. As you can see, we've got all the stakes in the ground, and these stakes are all identifying a tree. So everyone has a different name on it for what it may be. Got some yellow tababuyas going in over there. Got our first load of the cheese last night. We've got 11 zones of irrigation over here in this 2.5 acre plot, and then up by the entrance where we have another 4 zone on the buffer. So the customer really wanted some pecan trees. That one's going to be a pecan. We've got peaches, plums, mulberries, figs, loquats, you name it. This is very multi-species. Today, every one of these stakes you see are actually going to come out of the ground. We're going to get all the main fruit trees in place. We're going to get some of the irrigation in place, and then we'll be back again on Monday to start putting in support plants and spreading the ground cover. Looks like we got some fence poles getting delivered, and I'll tell you what's going on here. This gentleman's been hired to put up a animal perimeter fence around the entire food forest because they have a lot of hogs, they have a lot of deer, a lot of just animals that we're worried about getting in here and eating some of these different trees, eating this fruit. There's going to be a portion that we're going to be planting on the outside to actually share with the animals, but a lot of this stuff on the inside we're going to have to give a little bit more protection. The hogs in this area are quite invasive. They tear things up, they tear fields up, they tear fruit trees up, so it is a bit of a problem. So they're going to just have a 4-strand wire running around the whole thing off of solar power. That'll keep the animals actually out of here. It's not going to stop the squirrels, it's not going to stop the rabbits, but it's going to stop the bigger stuff that can actually rip the trees out of the ground. So day 4, it's coming together. Matt's over there grabbing some fruit trees, starting to lay out. Like I mentioned, all those stakes are coming out of the ground today. We're 4 days into this project. We've budgeted 14 days for the actual install. Probably have the bulk of the plants in next week. The following week we'll be doing all the details, finishing touches, mulching in. All right, guys, so day 6 of this LaBelle area install. Let's just say east of Fort Myers. We just got back yesterday. It's Tuesday morning. It was a brisk 38 degrees when we got here this morning. Actually, we've got a couple of plants with a little bit of damage on them, but we've got lots of plants that showed up, lots of plants going in the ground, lots of exciting stuff to show you. So let's look around. So you can see out here, we've got a lot of the mainframe already in place. Matt's over there laying out some upright yapoons. He just got done putting out the erythrina, the wax myrtle, a lot of those native nitrogen fixers. You know, all these trees, I see guavas, and that strawberry tree actually took a little bit of frost damage. I'll go over there and show you that in a second. Over here we have a banana pit with a couple of different varieties of bananas. And this is kind of a tropical zone right outside of the front of the cottage area. And you can see Ian's over here just finishing off the irrigation for these uprights. This will have some overhead protection in the wintertime if they want to protect these, you know, kind of ultra tropicals. You know, even though we are so far south, we are a bit inland, so it gets pretty cold here. Some of the tropicals that we have in this area are sugar apples, jackfruit, Adamoya, canistel, We've got probably 6 different types of mangoes over here. We've got a sapodilla, a couple of papayas. Those couple of bananas might get a little protection, but the rest are kind of in more of an exposed area. On this outer edge over here, this is getting a lot of flowering species. There's already a yellow tababuya. We have some royal poincianas, some dwarf poincianas, African tulip tree coming. So lots of different kind of flowering trees over here on this southern buffer. And then on that northern buffer, that's where we had all those live oaks. There's a lychee and a longan over here on the next bed over, which are a little bit more cold hardy than some of these more tropical species in the bed I'm walking through right now. We have another one of those tababuyas over here right next to the house. Japotacaba I see over here on the corner. Wax myrtle, grafted loquats, persimmons. Lots of sweet almond firebush going in this bed. A couple of vitex. I see a pineapple guava. And this is that one I was telling you guys got a little bit of frost damage. You can actually see the fuzz on the top of it there. You know, it's probably going to survive, definitely going to come back from the branches, but these leaves are probably done. They've pretty much melted. Most of those cells have exploded. It got so cold here. This is a tough one. I've had this one actually come back fairly well up at my farm. Tough as in recovers from the cold, not tough as in can handle the cold. I think we've got 23 live oaks going in out here. This center area, there's a lot of peaches. There's a lot, it goes peach, banana, peach, banana, peach, banana, peach, banana, kind of the whole way down. And on this row, it goes olive, banana, pomegranate, banana, olive, banana, pomegranate, olive, banana. Some of these natives have already gotten pulled out of this area, but we got a large delivery of some natives yesterday. Lots of that Hamelia patens, a native firebush, lots of those upright yapu and hollies. We've got Simpson stopper in here, big group of the stopper. We've got lots of salvias going in here. There's red ones, pink ones, white ones, a large pile of scorpion tail, a large pile of perennial peanut. And, you know, this little area right here is like 700 plants. It adds up pretty quickly in those trays. So, that, you know, there's a few thousand plants just in this smaller holding area here, not counting what's in the ground, not counting what's in the other holding area. We've got some gaillardia here. Some of them are actually just starting to flower. Lots of black-eyed Susan, lots of the sunshine mimosa, Mimosa strigolosa. There's that white salvia, liatris. There's the red salvias. There's the pink salvias. You guys know how much I love fakahatchee grass. Lots of fakahatchee grass in this area. Muley grass over here on this side, and then this whole corner is filled with the native goldenrod. You can see most of it's kind of done with that flowering phase, but there's definitely a couple left in here still. Let me show you this one that have a little bit of that yellow on it still. And you can see basically what we're doing is we're getting the main frame in place. And by main frame, I mean all the large trees, all the larger 3-gallon material that's not going to disappear, get smushed, become hidden when we come back in and start putting a lot of this mulch in here. We've had about 250 yards of mulch delivered so far. We've got 4 55-yard loads over there. And I've got one load that came here last night. It's still steaming. Another 55-yard load. We're going to be using about 750 yards here on this site. So lots of mulch going in. In between these native live oaks, we actually have some citrus trees. And you know, the homeowner knows that they're taking a little bit of a risk with the citrus, with the greening issue, but they want a chance at it anyway. They love citrus. We only put about 8 of those trees in, and they're basically in between every live oak going around this perimeter on the outside. So a couple citrus trees going in. You can see these poly lines we have ran. We just tap into those with the micro emitters for each of our fruit trees or anything desiring a little bit more water. Most of this stuff will be heavy mulch, native. just hand watered in. It's our little micro emitter. But like I was saying, not everything here is going to need irrigation, so we just have the micro emitters for the heavy feeders. This property is 22 acres. I'd say we're planting out somewhere around the 3-acre range. Definitely a nice little chunk of space. Some more of the sweet almond, erythrina, caliandra, wax myrtle, pineapple guava. Here's one of our valve boxes. It's got 11 zones over here in the back area. First load of compost came yesterday. And we are getting some plants in the ground. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. It looks like Christmas, huh?
It does. Those are pretty, man. You want to bring one home for a Christmas tree or something?
I would take some.
That one on the right hand's covered, bro.
We got any extras?
Whoa, whoa, you want one or two, huh?
That's caffeine right there, right?
Ooh, yeah. Not quite the weeping, but yeah, that's caffeine. So over here in this area, a couple of mulberries, some vitex, firebush, a couple of blueberries. We do have some Mysore raspberries actually over there in that tropical zone. We've got some blackberries over here in this area. A couple of cassia, Cattleya guava, and another banana pit. What we did was we dug out the center very deep, filled it with compost, filled the holes under the bananas with compost, and then we top dress heavy with biochar and a little bit of fertilizer, kind of kick that off, and now it's just waiting on some mulch. Maybe we'll pop a couple of nitrogen fixers in around it, and that is set, ready to put some compost in there. Over here on this side, we have Japotacaba, basically a Sabra variety, red variety, Sabra variety. Some figs over here on the end, caliandra. This spot's actually for a coconut. We have 3 coconuts going in out here. Over here on this next bed over, we've got some longans. There's a longan, black Suriname cherry, regular Suriname cherry. I believe this is going to be a royal palm. Another vitex, grafted Suriname cherry, lychee, and it's coming together. There's our other holding area over there. So most all of those plants, and I say most, there's definitely a bunch of moringa in there and some Mexican sunflower that's coming this way, but all of the oaks, all of the dahoon holly, all of the yapun holly is going out to that buffer planting that we're doing all the way along the street. So there's a couple of loads of cheese that we already got, and it's coming together.
Good morning, beautiful people.
Hey, how are you?
Doing excellent.
What are you doing? You planting plants?
Yes, sir.
So finishing touches on irrigation, finishing touches on the main frame. I'm guessing by tomorrow we're going to be putting heavy mulch down in here. By Thursday we'll be coming back in and getting all those little 4-inch plants, all those 1-gallon plants put in, which probably about 2,000, 2,500 of those. Friday we'll be out working on the irrigation by the road. Next week finish the buffer. And I've got a couple of days to plant out the buffer, mulch the buffer, and finish this out over here. So we are on, I gotta have to sit here and think about this for a second, but today's actually day 8, we'll say day 9, but 2 of those days were half days. So we've got about 8 full days here on this LaBelle project. We've moved 500-600 yards of mulch. We've planted over 100 fruit trees, a bunch of palm trees, some flowering trees. We've got some dwarf poincianas in here, royal poincianas in here, a couple silk floss. Lots of different flowering species, a couple of the native tababuyas in here. So this isn't all edibles. They wanted an aesthetic factor here also. They wanted to kind of have their own private botanical garden. Things are moving along really nice. The only thing we don't have in the ground is the 1-gallon support species. So what we'd like to do is put all the main frame in first, and by main frame I mean big trees, 3-gallon plants, fruiting trees, things like that. And then we'll come back and actually move the mulch and plant those little individual plants into it. Now today, we might get a couple of those little plants in the ground, but the bulk of those are gonna get wrapped up on Monday. And then the rest of next week, I'm here until Friday before Christmas. We're gonna be planting the buffer out by the street. And we've got lots of cabbage palms, oaks, dahoon hollies, upright yapoon hollies, weeping yapoon hollies, some more pineapple guava, some wax myrtle. So lots of native stuff up in the front. You know, the idea up there is really just to have a native buffer, kind of a wild look. This will be more of the obviously maintained grove with the cool design as you come in here to the property. Try and show you guys the big impact points here and show you what's growing on. As you can see, we've got some irrigation running, some mulch being moved. I'm gonna try to stay away from the machines to get you guys that quality audio. These two outer beds on the south end of the site are the only two that actually have a different native grass species. These are mealy grass, so these will get the red flowers in fall. All the rest of the beds are with Fakahatchee grass. There's dwarf firebush, there's standard firebush, there's Caliandra, coral breen, which erythrina, that's another native nitrogen fixer, wax myrtle, native nitrogen fixer. So a lot of, like I said, all the 3-gallon species are in. Those are those upright yapoon hollies. A couple of royal palms in here. A couple of jacarandas, I forgot to mention that. A couple of coconuts. Coconuts are, you know, definitely pushing it here. Those are the smallest coconuts I could get my hands on. They've got about 1 foot of wood, and we didn't want to go too big or too expensive with the coconuts because there is a risk here. Even though we are all the way down by Fort Myers, you know, just since we've been here, we've seen frost one night. So light frost, but frost at 40 degrees. So it's definitely something to be cautious about when you're pushing that subtropical edge. You can see we put big tree base kits on our cabbage palms to support those, especially the taller ones. We won't need to do that as much on the smaller ones. This is a really ultra tropical zone. This has overhead irrigation to give a little extra protection to the mangoes, papayas, canistel, adamoya, sugar apple. More of the cold hardy species start working their way in this way. So lychee can definitely take down into the 20s. Longan can take into the 20s. The reds or the black Suriname cherries are a little bit more cold hardy. So as we work our way out, we get a little bit more cold hardy. You know, in this bed here, we've got lots of figs going in. We've got our man over here, Mr. Reese, moving some mulch. He's been plugging hard. That 55-yard load got dumped last night. It's already half gone. We've been here about an hour and 10 minutes. So really coming together. I am missing a couple of trees. I have a African tulip tree going in here, and we have a bottle brush going in there, and another bottle brush going in there, and that's kind of the last of the big trees that are going in this area over here. So the rest is going to be all of those small plants I showed you guys the other day, lots of salvias, lots of flowering species, also more nitrogen fixers, perennial peanut and sunshine mimosa. There's a mulberry, there's some blueberries actually just starting to go deciduous, some blackberries around that cassia. When I got here, these two little cottages were pretty lonely. I mean, they were sitting in a field of dirt, pure sand, you know, nothing around them. You know, now here we are, like I mentioned, 8 or 9 days later, and it's completely surrounded by abundance and life. I mean, since we've been here, the birds have been showing up, the butterflies have been showing up, the bees have been showing up with these plant species we've been bringing in. So really cool to see this guy not being so lonely. This is kind of the come into the turnaround area. Clients did not want any vehicle access in here. They have a little side-by-side that gets stored in the shed. That's the only thing they want to come into this area with. They plan on parking the cars over there to the side or all the way out by the entrance. They had no interest in driving a vehicle in here, even though there probably is enough room with this gate and this entry we have over here to still get a big vehicle in if wanted. This is one of those big jacarandas. Those are beautiful trees. I see some vitex. All of our micro irrigation is in. As you can see, these plants are getting sprayed and watered this morning. You know, one of the challenges we had out here, client had a well put in, but he's been fighting and calling and begging the power company to come out and put a line in. We still have no power. So one of those noises that you hear over there, other than the tractor, is actually a generator running to get water out here while we work on the project. powers do. They're saying any day. Hopefully they come sooner than later, because it's definitely going to be a pain in the butt to come out here and turn on the generator and run these, you know, irrigation zones as they're, you know, establishing. And they're definitely going to need regular water, especially in the first 30 days or so. I see lots of sweet almond over here. This is that northern buffer. This is the one I talked about the other day. It has citrus and oak trees all the way around it. Hey, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You're doing a fine job.
Gotta love your work.
That's right, my friend. And that man loves his work. Yeah, you can see the Gaillardia, the black-eyed Susans, the Laetris, the Salvias, and the goldenrod are all going into this garden. The firebush and the upright yapoons are going out into that buffer area. As you can see, we put lots of hose bibs in and around the garden, so you can also do some hand watering. We're actually using that to water our nursery right now. These back rows are kind of more designed as like agroforestry rows. You know, we've got 2 clumping grasses that are going to get a cassava in between each. And the idea here is having the chop and drop. We're going to put lots of Mexican sunflower in, lots of native nitrogen fixing ground covers. And we've got a real bit of symmetry going on here. Like I said, you know, there's 2 grasses between every, whatever the other 2 main tree species may be. On this row, it's olive banana. On the next row, it's peach banana, plum banana. Very cold hardy over here. There's also some pomegranates in this area. And these rows still have plenty of access. You can still get, you know, 8 to 10 foot through here, no problem. And the fence guys are here. You know, we are out here in the middle of the country. There are a lot of animals, a lot of hogs, a lot of invasive kind of species that will get in here and kind of rut up and tear up the garden. So the client's putting a solar electric fence around the entire outside of the garden to protect all of these trees for the long run. Whoa! I don't think this fence was here last time we came, Matt. That's new, huh?
Yeah.
All right, can you jump it for the camera?
Definitely not.
Show us how it works.
No.
Tell us what they're doing here. What is this thing here for?
So this is animal exclusion fence, and it is pretty severe. They've got a hot ground, you know, they got a whole bunch of different hot wires on the main fence, and they've got this trip set up here. It's supposed to keep deers from being able to get in. I think it was out of Georgia. There was like some system they've got developed in Georgia. And yeah, it's supposed to be deer proof, and it's pretty serious.
7,200 volts. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bill and Judy aren't messing around. They don't want the deer and the hogs in here destroying the system. And I guess it's been a month since we finished up here. I mean, we've got things flowering. We've got things that have been eaten by the rabbits. I mean, no weeds, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, so far so good. And this is the worst it's ever going to be. This, you know, we put everything in December, and we're not going to have real rain. We had rain yesterday, but we're not going to have real rain and real good growing conditions for months. So we put in an irrigation system, and we put in a lot of mulch. So we've done everything we can to make it work. But this is the hard time to get everybody through.
Yeah, I even had some comments on those photos when we posted. I mean, like, it looks like concrete here in between these paths, because we are in Florida. We have pure sandy soils. So when I get the drone up and you look down, you know, this is sand. This isn't concrete. This is a permeable surface. I don't know if the grass is going to go back. I don't know if the weeds are going to grow back here. I was surprised not to see any growth here today when we came back. You know, it still kind of looks like when we left. They've tried putting a little bit of annual ryegrass or perennial ryegrass over here in this area by the barn. Didn't really take off really well. You know, I could see long-term managing some type of grass or something in these paths, and we'll see what comes up. I have a feeling we'll see some palmettos and some of those native species coming back. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff out here right now, it doesn't look like much right yet. You know, like I said, the bananas already got hit. Everything's kind of small. Give this place a couple of months. You know, we'll be back probably midsummer, and you're going to not even be able to recognize it. Hopefully the paths have some color to them. The trees will have filled in. That's the exciting part about what we do. Whoa, what do you got here? Some flowers?
Yeah, the peaches are flowering, peaches and plums. So part of these bands here, if you look, we've got our main fruit tree, and then we've got a banana and a main fruit tree as it goes through the system. But in between those, we planted Mexican sunflower and then 2 clumping grasses in between each set. And that's the idea, is that we're growing our own mulch here. In other areas where you're closer to a source, you can have mulch brought in and you can place it. Here, we don't have that luxury. It's expensive to get it here and time consuming. So what we've done here is planted our mulch in place. And the idea is you chop it periodically, you place it by the fruit trees, and it regrows and you do it again. Up here, we're at the road. We got a native buffer zone here with oaks, some palms, and then a whole understory host of different natives here we can walk through and take a look at. So we have some existing trees that we left. We've got a couple of decent sized oaks and pines here, and then we kind of trying to fill in the gaps. We're trying to block out some of the wind from across the street. If you look, it's just a huge open cleared cattle pasture. And so what we wanted to do was create a native buffer hedge here. So we've got some larger oaks that we put in, some of these cabbage palms, and then we've got an understory here. We've got wax myrtle, Simpson stopper, firebush, several different types of holly, the dahoon and the yupon. The saw palmetto is going to come back up pretty soon. We've got, I don't know, probably a dozen different types of native species in here that we've interplanted.
Yeah, I think the only real edible up here is what, the monstera maybe on the trees, right?
That and the pineapple guavas that we put.
Oh yeah, the fajojas. Yeah, I remember when we were actually installing these trees, we were literally struggling to keep them standing up. We had to put the tree kits up as they went up. I mean, there was no way we could have made a video due to sound audio, rain problems. I mean, it was just a combination here. So lots of challenging factors. How wide would you say this bed is, Matt? 15 foot to 20 foot kind of throughout?
Yeah, about 15 foot.
And that's going almost 400 foot the whole length of the property. I think it's about 300, almost 300 foot on this side and about 100 foot on the other side. All right, guys, so I'd say this install took us about 4 weeks, but we didn't actually have 4 full weeks into that. I'd say, maybe 12 days. We started a day late, we missed a day the 1 week, we left a day early. Yeah. So maybe 12 days, 6 guys on this total install. So from start to finish. Matt is our lead designer here. He did the design on this project. He's our lead consultant. He really kind of knocked that one out of the park. We came out here for the original consultation. Matt asked me, kind of an idea on the design. I gave him a little something and he just runs with it. So that's what I'm talking about. Don't forget, Matt's channel will be linked down in the description down below. What do we do now?
Like,
subscribe,
share,
pound dirt.